Yeah, hello all. Thanks for joining the session. So good evening. Let's wait for a couple of more minutes for people to join. Um, yeah. Can you guys hear me? Please confirm in the chat. And if you guys can see the screen, just confirm on both. Yeah. Can anyone confirm in the chat? Okay. Yeah. Now you can confirm the chat. That was disabled. Okay. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Thanks for the confirmation, Udit. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, guys. So just wait for a couple of more minutes and we'll start the session. Okay. In the meantime, you guys can introduce if you want, I can unmute you. You can introduce if you are fine with it. And today is a demo session, by the way. So we won't start the session right away. So today we'll be discussing about the syllabus part and how the sessions going to be, or how the courses will be. And yeah, so let's see. Yeah, I guess it's already time. So let me start the session. So once again, welcome to the Linux administration training session. So today is a demo only. So yeah. So yeah, this is the support email. And the first slide is yeah, so the general information. So let me go through each point. So first thing, if you have any doubts related to technical or any payment related or any recordings, you're having issue with recording or notes, any issue, please do reach out to the contacts, which is this one, support@logiclabs. So I will even send it in the chat. Logiclabs. Okay. Or you can reach out to them during the business hours, like from Monday to Saturday, like 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. IST it is. And these are all the numbers. You can reach out to them. They will assist you regarding anything. And the first 3 sessions will be a demo session. And after that, it will be shared only to the paid candidates. And it is a paid sessions only. Okay, so the course is a paid course. Okay, and you should not do a batch shifting. Like you can't pay for this batch and trying to join the another batch. Okay, so and please do join this um, link. So this is a WhatsApp link. If you're or not part of it already, so just click on this and it will redirect to the WhatsApp community. Okay, so you just click on join chat. So anything related to our course, it will be posted there. Like if there is no session or if there is any recording which is missing or which is a new recording is added, it will be posted in that group. Okay, and yeah, so it is all our sessions are managed through Graphy. Graphy is the like our LMS platform. So yeah, I will show you how to do that. Okay, at the last, and these are all the social media links for our like Logic Labs. Okay, so yeah, and our course is based on RHCSA. Okay, so first thing, we will discuss what is RHCSA and those things. But first thing, a little bit about myself. So Karthik here. So I done my RHCC certification like a year ago, more than a year ago, and currently I'm working as a platform engineer in one of an MNC in Chennai. So yeah, and I'm currently handling more than even this is less, at least 10,000 plus servers are there. So we will troubleshoot or doing installation, build, all these things we will be doing. Okay. Along with it, since it is a platform support, we will do much more than that. We will see what and all is I do over the period of time. I will show you that. And first and foremost, why Linux? You would ask, and what is Linux? And again, why it's still relevant in IT in 2024, right? So that would be your question. And in order to answer that, first thing, why Linux, right? So why Linux in the sense? First thing, there are majorly two operating system, which is not currently, it's been quite some time and it's been like dominating the industry, right? So it's just yeah, Microsoft Windows and yeah, Linux. Let me generalize Linux as of now, okay? And why Linux? Since even Mac OS is also based on Linux, okay? So only these two players are out there, or these two are the one which dominates the enterprise. So whenever I mention enterprise or commercial, it means enterprise means it is here companies. Okay, so any company which is called as enterprise and company or infra, you can call it as okay. So infrastructures. So any company will have their own data centers, right? So that's what called as I might mention it as enterprise or company. Either way, it is the same. Okay. So why they prefer Linux over Windows? Actually, in enterprise, it's the other side. Okay, so when it comes to commercial or like end user, as like us, we prefer Microsoft Windows. Why? Because it's an ease of access and anyone can understand it since it is a GUI. Okay, now what is GUI and CLI? So a GUI means that's what you're seeing, right? So you are interacting with this machine based on the graphical elements you see here, right? So there are graphical elements even in your settings or anywhere you see, and even this cursor, mouse cursor is also a graphical element. So basically, you're interacting with the machine using a graphical user interface. Then how about CLI and why CLI? Like you might ask, okay, then CLI is not there in your Windows. Obviously, no. CLI is also part of Windows, and this is a CLI. Okay, so it's just a bit boring one only, but it does a lot of jobs. Trust me, it is way more productive or way more efficient than your GUI because it does what is needed, right? So let's say you want to copy, you want to remove all these, there are commands here, and it's a command, okay? Command or a binary. So which means I need to type, I can't type simply some random, like let's say sample or some random commands if I type, or some random words if I type, it won't recognize, right? So what I should do, I should give an exact command, then only it will recognize. You see, this directory command, if I given, that it detected and it listed all the directories and files in the path. Like that, you should do. It's a command line interface. So that's what CLI. Okay, so command line interface. Okay, so these two are the like based on these two only, the user base is differing. Okay, so many companies and why Linux is preferred. This is one of the key factor, which is CLI is what most of the companies prefer, and Linux is like built specifically for CLI. Okay, so even Windows has that, but still Linux is like a preferred CLI, or companies prefer CLI. And if you heard the term DevOps or any agile tools or anything, you can call it any methodology, uses many tools, right? So let's say Jenkins or any tools, you might see a CLI version of it, and that's what companies tap in and prefer it. Okay, so the point is everything will be narrowed down to CLI and Linux. You must know Linux in order, and companies host their OS as a Linux only. So everything will be narrowed down to Linux only. So you must know Linux no matter what. And this is a separate route. Okay, so it's like okay, then how about developers? So even developers must know at least the basics of Linux. Then only they can use, let's say, Docker. So Docker and all, Docker, Kubernetes, all are CLI only. So you should know at least the basics, like what is a file system, or how to troubleshoot if there is any mount point issue, like that. Basics you must know. So that's what Linux is almost everywhere in enterprise. And the first thing, or the another point which to be considered is there are many flavors of Linux, and it is like you can tweak based on your requirement. So that is even great, right? So each company, or they can choose, they have a variety of requirement to be chosen. Whereas Microsoft Windows is a closed source, or now you can see how it is even more different, right? So it is a closed environment or closed source, which means if I try to change the UI, even just a basic UI, if I try to change this layout, or I'm removing the settings, after a Windows update, it will be back. It might be back. It's not that for sure it will be back, but it might be, because Microsoft is notorious to do that, and it is a closed source. Okay, so you won't have an upper hand that, okay, what is happening in the background of the OS. Whereas Linux, since it is an open source, and Linux is open source because of the guy who started Linux, or who initiated the kernel, right? So let me just show his GitHub page. So his name is Linus Torvalds. Okay, so that's the reason it is called as Linux. Okay, so he is the one who initiated the first kernel. Okay, so what is kernel? It's like the heart of the your OS. As of now, you just understand it like that, because we will dwell deep into that later. But as of now, it's a like a almost everything depends on that particular kernel, and it is a very, very small file. Okay, so but your whole system depends on that. Okay, and you see this guy is he is it's not his only his effort. Since it is open source, you see the number of contributors. It's around six, almost like 15,000 to 16,000 people are there, and it is an active repository. So this is actual kernel, which means you can pull this kernel, and if you are smart enough, you can create your own version of Linux. Okay, obviously you need to include your own GUI elements or so, but still you can even at least have an option to create your own version. Whereas in Windows you can't, right? So obviously you can, but it might be nullified if there is any new update or any issues there, right? So, and Windows is again notorious to have so many blue screen issues or something, right? So that's the thing. And yeah, coming back to our slides, and why it is still relevant in IT, right? So that would be our next question. So it's been out there quite some time actually, but it's been around 3 decades, 30 years. Like last year, it was 30th year, I guess. So yeah, it's been 3 decades, but still, why people prefer that? And it almost like dominated every companies or everywhere it is there. So why? That would be a question, right? So why in the sense it is a having a lot of benefits compared to there is nothing to be compared. It went to that state, or it is in that state that you have optimal performance, right? So and there is, let's say, if it is connecting to a network, there are few tools which is having low latency also in it. Okay, and obviously it is the performance is great when it comes to any application, especially enterprise. So it is the best one. And one more key factor is the support of it. Okay. So now is where we will tap into one more thing called as different distros. Okay. So for that, we need to go to this site, which is called as DistroWatch. Okay. So now so coming back to Linux, as I told, Linux is having like you can even create your own version of Linux, and there are a bunch of developers have their own companies and with their own softwares. Okay, and this is what the result of it, which is like a lot of at least 800 plus active OS Linux based OS out there. Okay, so you can just go to this site. Even I will mention in the chat. You can even bookmark this site, and you can see the ranking, which OS or which distribution it is called as, and it is topping the rank. Okay, so here Red Hat might not be the famous one because it's like as an end user you won't prefer that. Okay, but because there are many things or many other distros which offers a lot of options, but still Red Hat is preferred in the industry. Okay, so that's what Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And now you might ask, okay, so Red Hat, like they own the Linux, is it? No. As I told, Linux is an open source. Red Hat has their own version of Linux. Okay, and they also been out there, like out in the market for quite some time. It's almost like a 2 decades. Okay, and what are all the Red Hat's like traits? Like what are all they do? And why companies prefer Red Hat certification over uh, like any other? Like you have so many certifications out there, but why Red Hat certification in particular? Companies or your resume has its own credibility if you have that, right? So why? Because first thing, this certification or any Red Hat certification is a like practical based. There is no MCQ or no nothing. Okay, so if you know the answer or you know the exact commands for that respective answer, then only, or so for the respective question, then only you can answer it, right? So that's the first thing, which literally eliminates almost any other certification, let's say AWS or Azure or even GCP, any other cloud-based certification, or any almost every certification has multiple choice questions, right? Whereas here, if you know the exact command, then only you can even attend the exam. Okay, so that's the thing about RHCSA. And the full form of RHCSA is Red Hat Certified System Administrator. So if you have this in your resume, literally you're confirming the interviewer that, okay, you know the basics and intermediate level of knowledge in Linux. Okay. So no matter any flavor they have, any Linux distros or flavors they have, you can work on it. It's not that, okay, only Red Hat, he will excel that. But anyhow, most of the basics will be same for all the Linux distros. Okay, so it's not that, okay, only Red Hat, he will be specialized. Like let's say Cisco certified if you are, only the Cisco hardware you can work on it, right? Whereas here, you can, if you know the basics, you can work on literally anywhere, right? So any, like let's say if a company uses Ubuntu, which is a famous one, but still, if a company or a startup prefers that, you can work on it, right? So since you know the basics and intermediate level, you can work on it. Okay. So that's your RHCSA. I will explain a bit more about the fee structure of the RHCSA and what are all the cover in it. Okay, so but before that, let's see an eagle view about the basics or what are all the major topics we will be covering. So the first thing is your user management. Okay, so what is user management or why it is preferred, right? So just a second. Yeah. So user management must be managed at any cost of their own employees, right? So if you take any companies, first they need to manage their own employees. Let's say TCS or Wipro or any huge MNCs, their user base. Let's keep that aside. Let's their employer base itself will be a huge one, right? So first thing they need to figure out how to segregate or how to manage their employees. Then your their customers or their clients, right? So the point is, it's a huge thing, and many companies, especially MNC, has the best industry practice. But small companies mostly won't mind about the user management because the volume they will be tackling will be bit less. But still, it is a great thing if you do a optimal way of approach to the user management. Okay. And the next one is your disk management. So what is a disk? Where we store the data, right? So the data will be stored there, but in our Windows or anywhere as an end user, we will dump our information. Like, let's say you're having a movie series or any important document, everything will be dumped to a single partition, which is which is fine because as end user, you or as a typical user, you need to locate where you stored it. That's it, right? So, but when it comes to enterprise, each and every application matters for them. And if there is any downtime, so downtime in the sense, if there is any failure in that particular partition or mount point or something, it will be a huge thing, right? So that particular time, that application won't be there or won't be available for few seconds also. It's a huge risk for their platform, right? So that's the reason disk management is taken very seriously, and that's where their money is, right? So they must be available at any cost. That's the disk management. And how about process management? So this is a common one in any operating system. Let's say in Windows also, you must manage your all the let's say foreground or background process, how optimal it should be running, or if there is any anything which is creating a spike in these kind of graphs, you need to identify it. Or like what went wrong with that particular process if it is terminated unexpectedly. Like that's so many things you need to consider, especially when it comes to process management. Okay. And the next one is your server troubleshooting. And this is where like and this won't be asked in your exam. Okay. So it's not like everything will be asked, and it's not like our course will be cover only RHCSA based. Like our course is tailored based on RHCSA's like syllabus, but it's like we will well much deeper into that. Okay, so like what a day-to-day activity would be for a sysadmin or a system engineer, right? So that's what. And the server troubleshooting part, like if the server went down unexpectedly, what went wrong, or who is the one responsible for that, or if there is any process which trigger the reboot, right? So, or powered off, like those kind of hardware also as well as software issues, you are the one who need to troubleshoot because obviously you are the one who owns it, right? So as a server admin, you are the one who have the privilege to do that. Okay, so at least, so that's what we will be doing a lot of sessions based on this server troubleshooting. And the next one is your basic networking. So why I mentioned as basic networking is since networking itself is a huge topic or a huge separate subject, we will be covering only the networking, which is networking knowledge, which is required for our as a Linux admin or as a sysadmin, like how to configure a static IP or how to troubleshoot if there is any IP is not populated from your NIC card, right? So how to restart the process like that, like basics will be covered, like how to do the routing and all we'll be doing, but not a lot we will be doing, right? So whatever needed for a sysadmin will be covered. Okay, so that's kind of like a roadmap or a kind of an eagle view about what would be the course about. Okay, and so yeah, like these are all the syllabus part. So the first thing we'll be seeing the introduction and introduction to RHEL 8. So this is a RHEL. Okay, so Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and Red Hat specifically had or they tailored their operating system specifically for enterprise usage. Okay, so and they have their best support team out there. So if you go for the support and oh, like I didn't log in yet, but once I logged in, you can see the support team. Okay, so you can go here, you can raise a Red Hat case and they will be assisting you right away like that. They have the best, and obviously it's not like okay, then there would be any bugs. You might be worrying that okay, so this OS is not stable. Obviously any OS out there won't be stable, it's like if you don't have that solution, obviously you need to reach out to the person who built it, right? So that's what the support team is, and it's way responsible, and that's their USP actually. Okay, so yeah. So why I mentioned RHEL 8 is, so RHEL 8 and 9, there is not much difference. So you like in some cases I will install RHEL 9 also. So in AWS actually will be installing RHEL 9. Okay, so you can either use RHEL 8 or 9 for our course, and at least RHEL 8 or 9. Please don't use RHEL 7 because few commands won't work in RHEL 7, whereas RHEL 8 and 9 is almost same. Okay, and the next one is here. This is what we usually think about when it comes to Linux is yeah, commands, right? So there is around 2000 plus commands out there. Okay, so it's not that we'll be covering everything, and it's not that okay, only very few will be like going through. It's like what is needed as a sysadmin, and especially as a 2 year experience. Let's say you're joining a company and it's been like 2 years. Those many tasks or those many um, BAU activities we'll be discussing. Whatever you do in a day-to-day usage, right? So day-to-day as in any enterprise. So that's what we'll be discussing. And obviously, next session itself, we'll be doing the installation. Okay, so we'll be doing installation in 3 ways. So I'll be showing you. So one is your using virtualization, how to install in your using VMware Workstation, as well as AWS and GCP. I'll be showing you. Azure also is fine. Like let's say you're already an Azure user, but the issue with Azure is it's not a free one. Okay, they are giving $100 credit for a student. Obviously, there will be students here, but if you are a student, I would encourage you to use that. But still, if you are already a working professional, so you are not eligible for that. Okay, so but still you have other two options like AWS or GCP, and we will be doing some basics of AWS and GCP, like creating an instance, creating some. Obviously, we need to create a key and those things, but we will be seeing if time permits. At last, we will be discussing those. Okay, so few cloud knowledge is needed or is necessity as of current market. So yeah, we will be doing that. And the next one is your performance monitoring. So this is an interesting one. Why? Because let's say you are in this case using my system, I can monitor, which is totally fine. But this is only one system we are talking about. Whereas in your work environment, you will be having thousands of computers. So how you would be monitoring it, or is there any monitoring solution for that? So obviously there is. So there are different monitoring tools out there, which is great. Actually, it does a lot of the heavy lifting. And you have Grafana and Zabbix and New Relic. Like that, the list goes on. New Relic, ELK stack. And for log monitoring, you have Splunk. Like that, it's a huge list actually, monitoring tools. So I will try to cover you at least one, like New Relic. It's an open source actually. So I will try to cover New Relic or Grafana. Either of one, I will be covering you at the last. Okay. Or if time is like if I can't cover, I will give you a course related to that. You can go through that. Okay. But this knowledge is very, very important, guys. Okay. So at least one tool you must know. Sorry, I missed Dynatrace. Very, very important one when it comes to application monitoring and all. Dynatrace is important. Okay, and that's what like you must have these knowledge at least one. Okay, and yeah. So the next one is your user management. So that's what, as I told, we will be checking how to create a from basics. So that's what this course is aiming from basics, or if you're very new to IT or you're from non-IT and you're trying to switch to IT, this is a very right course which you'll be opting for. Why? Because we'll be starting from basics, like from the installation or from like how to create a user, from those things till how to install a software or how to troubleshoot if there is any issue. Till that will be covered. Okay, so you need not worry too much. and it is easy. Okay, so it's not that okay, it's a very hard thing or it's a very huge course or nothing like that. So if you have a passion to it, and you have the time, obviously you can master it. It's very easy and it's a necessity as of now. So if let's say you are a developer or a DevOps engineer or anyone, you must know this. So no other choice actually out there. So yeah. So coming back here, so we'll be creating a user, deleting, modifying, all these things we'll be doing. And we'll be seeing how Active Directory user is different from a local user, and how to configure the super user access or a pseudo access, like a privileged one. Okay, so yeah, privileged access, how it works. It's an interesting way of approach for a provisioning and access to a user. Okay, so privileged access, because you'll be provisioning access for a specific command or specific action. So that's the thing. And the next one is your basic OS concepts. Okay, so this is common for almost every OS. These are all the same, like how to access it remotely, or how to search for a specific text in a like a text document, right? So these are all basic things, and essential commands like copy, move, delete. So all these file manipulation commands will be checking, and much more like how to create a hard link, soft link, and file permissions. Very, very important concept. As a sysadmin, you must be doing this actually in day-to-day basis. You will be doing. So yeah, and the archive. So this is like a best practice, and you must know this. So we'll be covering these all. So don't worry about it. And the next one is your sysadmin um, activities, basic activities. Okay. So what is a booting procedure? Even next session, we'll be discussing about that. What is a booting procedure? And after that only, we'll be doing the installation. Okay. So what is a booting procedure? And why this has been asked in many of the interviews, if you are already attended it, for sure, they might ask at least in the first round, what is a booting procedure? Why? Because as a sysadmin, you will be facing a lot of servers with any issue. It can be, since the volume is high, it can when go to a it can be a simple issue, or it can even grow to a very complex issue. But the point is, you should be in a position to diagnose, even though it is a rebooting or if it is stuck while it is booting, you should know which phase it is stuck, right? So that's the reason in any interviews they will try to uh, like ask you that, okay, at least know the basics, right? So that's what is the booting procedure. So if you know that, you can diagnose if there is any issue there, you will diagnose it or troubleshoot it, right? So that's the thing. And how to interrupt the booting process. And you need to boot to the super user mode, sorry, emergency mode. Okay, so how to do that? And like yeah, let's say you forgot the root password or an admin password, you need to do all these. Okay, so we will be doing all this, so you need not worry about these things. It's an easy one actually. Okay, and that's what like this is same about the monitoring. So how to identify a CPU or any task or process, and how to kill it, how to identify if there is any spike based on the like let's say if I'm opening another tab, for sure there will be a spike in my memory or my CPU usage. Obviously, as of now, we know that okay, this is due to this application, but in your production servers, there will be around 10 plus application. In some servers, it will be that. So you need to identify which application or which process is triggering that. Okay, so that's the challenging part. And you need to engage the respective team. So that depends on each companies, but the point is you need to identify. Okay, so that's this point. And the next one is your tuning profiles. So based on your requirement, how to tune your system. And the next one is your what very, very important one, which is your system logs or any logs. So what is a log, right? So let's say this process or your system is running forever. Until you turn it off, it will be running. But the issue here is you have an issue or any warning is posted in, let's say, Google Chrome, some extension is not working in Google Chrome. What it will be doing is it will be logged. Okay, so for that particular time, it will log a event or anything. It will be logging in the Chrome's log. So if I go and check there, okay, this extension is keep on failing during that particular interval, or it is keep on failing for the next sorry in a pattern, like every 10 minutes once it is trying to start that extension and it is failing. So it will be logged, right? So again, I can go back and revisit that. So that's the purpose of a log, right? So it is like a kind of a journal. Okay, so journal itself is a log about the system. So we will be discussing those, and there are so many logs out there, like application log, system log, user logs, right? So many are there. So why this is important is that's what, like, let's say there is an issue occurred due to a network switch or some random issue, hardware issue is there. You need to backtrack that, okay, from when this issue has been happened, right? So you need to do the RCA, it is called as root cause analysis. Okay. So if you're already working, you might have heard this term, right? So you need to backtrack and understand, okay, this is where, or from that day, like last month, this particular day only it started. So you need to find the exact root cause. Why? Because we should avoid that in the future, right? So let's say that process is what the culprit is. So obviously you need to just remove it, or you need to move it to a different server, that particular application or the specific process, right? So you should not uh, make it as a startup process. Like, so many measures are there, but the point is you need to understand uh, how a log works or how to analyze a log. Okay, so those things we'll be doing it extensively. We'll be doing in like 2 to 3 sessions. We'll be doing only log analysis and those things. Okay, and yeah, how obviously preserve the logs, and how to do the log rotation and those things we'll be checking it. Okay, and the next one is here, how to check the status of any service. I mentioned a system service. It can be any application service or anything. How to check status of it, and if something is failed, how to locate the specific log of that service, right? So that one we'll be doing, and how to transfer a file from one system to another, and you will be doing that a lot actually. So on every day, at least once you might do this, right? So using WinSCP or any tool, you have SCP, rsync. So many commands and tools are there, will be doing it. And in many batches, I heard how to do the server patching. I will be showing you the commands and the what is actually happening in the backend. We'll be seeing when it comes to server patching. Why? Because in day-to-day basis, at least let's say you are placed in a company, you might be even placed as a patching engineer or patching team, which means on a day-to-day basis, you would be the one stopping the servers and starting it and doing a health check. It's a routine task, but the point is it will be a bit challenging if you're doing in a physical servers. Okay, so it will be having some issues in some cases, right? So we'll be checking how to do the server patching as a satellite patching also we'll be doing. Okay, and it's almost done. Okay, so trust me. So the next one is your disk management and especially LVM. Okay, so yeah, what is LVM? So LVM full form is logical volume management. Okay, so that's LVM, and it's the most important concept, or it's an USP of Linux. So long story short about LVM is how you can combine this disk 0 and disk 1. In Windows, you can't actually. Natively, you can't do that. In Windows Server also, you can't. Until there is actually a third-party software. So using that, you can. But natively, like Windows doesn't support that. Like in this disk 0, it is around 1.8 TB is there. And here it is around 200 gigs. So simply, I can't place this 200 gigs along with this one. I can't combine it. Whereas in Linux, you can. And the best thing is you can combine almost every disk. There is no limitation. Okay, so it's a great thing, right? So that's what companies also need. Like it saves a lot of time, because let's say if this is filled, and how to extend it. or how it works is you need to copy all these files to a huge data store or data disk, and you will extend or you will buy a new hard disk or SSD, and you need to copy it back and reconfigure a few things, which is a lot of things, lot of tasks you are doing, or a lot of heavy lifting, right? So whereas here, literally you can extend and there won't be a data loss. That's the best thing. Even though you format it in everything you do, there won't be a data loss, which is a huge thing. And it saves a lot of time and money even for a huge enterprise. So LVM is the best concept and you must know it no matter what. Any interviews, they will be asking LVM for sure, at least once. Okay. So one question will be there. So we'll be creating an LVM or we'll be again extend, resize, mount, unmount, and how it works. Like if something went wrong in LVM, how to diagnose it. So all these we'll be doing in LVM concept. Okay, and how to format it. Like these are all the different file system formats. How to like format it to a specific format, and again how to extend an existing LVM. That's the thing, right? So obviously you can create a new one, even in Windows you can, but you need to extend an existing one without data loss. That's the best thing, and we will be discussing it. It will be an interesting session actually. Okay, and this strategies and video is like a advanced version of LVM, so we'll be looking into that later. During the after these understanding all these, we'll be looking into these two strategies and video. And the lastly, you have the security and like your networking. Okay, so obviously any operating system security is the it's not the afterthought, right? So nowadays there is a lot of attacks, like cyber attacks, right? So and the best thing about Linux is there is not much hacker or any adware or malware creators, right? So there is not many out there, especially for Linux, because it actually treats almost any executables as a file only. Okay, so in Windows, if you do a batch file, and you can actually, how to say, like you can create a batch file and you can automate it. So while the Windows boots, automatically it will trigger that Trojan virus or something, and it your system will be stuck or it will be serving for his purpose. Like you can go to your bank account or something, right? But the point is, in Linux, it's bit hard actually, and there is not much developers for this one. So it's far more resilient and it's far more secure, and you can even detect if something went wrong. Okay, using logs. Okay, so that's the thing. And you have the first and the most important one is how to configure a key-based authentication or a passwordless. So you might have used in AWS or GCP or any cloud service out there, but you might not have a background actually what is going in your key-based authentication. Like cryptography is what goes in the background, but how actually it is understanding it, right? So literally we are used to typing the password, but all of a sudden, without typing a password, the first time configuration, if it is done correctly, you will never type a password for forever, right? So that's the thing about key-based authentication, and it's the most preferred one for many applications out there, especially your critical applications. Okay, so that's the thing, and it's similar to your SSO, single sign-on is there, right? So it's similar, but there are a few things which is changing. We'll see the difference on those things. And how about firewall? So firewall is obviously important in any operating system because in order to protect you from some network attacks like DDoS attack or something, right? So obviously firewall will be in place, especially in your work environment, but how to configure it, especially in a server side, right? So there will be a network firewall. So from the switch end, but as in application layer or in our OS, how to configure it, right? So we'll be doing it, and how to manage the file permissions optimally for your security point, right? So that also will be checking, and you have SC Linux. So SE Linux full form is Security Enhanced Linux. So you'll be seeing how it actually affects your whole system in a good way. It's not in a bad way. It's protecting. It's like a one more layer of protection to each and every file and directory or folder. Okay, so I might mention directory or folder, both are same only. Okay, so that's what, like, how it affects all the things in your machine. So yeah, and the next one is how to restrict the user with only specific set of commands. So let's say you created a user called as Messi. Let's say for him you are giving only 10 commands and only he can execute that, and he is restricted to go only to a specific path, not even his home path. Okay, so it's too much restriction, and you can do that actually in Linux. Okay, so if you want a user to do specifically that only, you can do that in Linux until you are a root user. And obviously, you will be a root user, especially if you are a sysadmin. Okay, and the basic networking, as I told, how to configure a static IP. This one we'll be doing the next section itself, how to set a host name. And if something went wrong in a network service, how to configure it, and those things. Okay, and how about containers? Okay, so what is a container? It's like a similar to your virtualization, but it's an optimal way of approach to a virtualization. Okay, so that I can put it in that way, and we will be discussing about this. And Podman is an open source container. Okay, so it's similar to your Docker, and even you can mention this in your resume. So once you're done with the session, because we will be doing many things with this one Podman, and you can include that. Okay, and how to create a startup process related to containers, and how to uh, again pull the image, start a service with it. So many things we'll be doing with containers. And if time permits, I will be covering vSphere. Why? Because this is a huge software. Actually, it needs around 120 gigs of your hard drive. Okay, and it will be a bit slow. Okay, so that's the reason I run it in my PC, but I will try to show you this at least in a screenshot or some way. I'll try to show you this vSphere because in enterprise, or sorry, in our day-to-day usage, we'll be using VMware Workstation, which is this one. Okay, which is fine, but it won't have all the options you will see in your work environment. Okay, so vSphere is what companies use, and I will try to show you that. Okay, so don't worry about it, but that's what, like, time permits, we'll be discussing that. Okay, so yeah, so that sums up all our syllabus part and the basics of whole course what we will be covering. And not only this, obviously, if you have any doubts regarding, like, let's say you're already a sysadmin, but having doubts, we'll be discussing those during our sessions. Okay, so yeah. And if you check the RHCSA certifications, right? So the price of that certificate is, and if you're already working in a company, you can actually reimburse this price. It is around 19,500 or something. INR. Okay, so you can convert it in dollars. It is around $200, I guess. So yeah, so that's your certification cost, and the cost of our courses, and it is a paid course, by the way, guys. Okay, and the timing for our course will be 8 to 9 p.m. IST, and the course fees is around 4,130 in rupees, and in dollars it will be $50, I guess. And the duration is 4 weeks, and it is a not exactly 4 weeks. So based on how many doubts you ask, and it doubts are welcomed anytime. Okay, so you can ask as much doubts you want, and I can repeat if any doubts in the course, and it can extend, but at least 4 weeks of content is there. Okay, so that's the thing. Okay, so any doubts till now? Anyone? So any doubts regarding the course? And by the way, like, this course is mainly for the people who are trying to start their career in IT. And if you're already as a Linux admin, this is like a refresh course for you. Okay. So anyway, this is mainly targeting the sysadmin or system administrators, and if you're a system engineer, and if you're planning to go for DevOps, but it's not like, okay, DevOps right away you can go with only Linux knowledge. It's like a fundamental or a foundational knowledge you will have. There are so many tools you must not master it. At least if you know the basics, you can actually crack an interview. Okay, so that's the thing about DevOps. So it's a foundational knowledge you must have, no other choice actually. And same thing goes for your SRE, which is site reliability engineer. Okay, so exactly. You can work as a server admin, or you can attend any interview after this course. And by the way, like in if I cover a topic, whatever is asked in recent interviews, I will be telling that, okay, this concept is asked in recent interviews, like that. Okay, so obviously, once you're done with the course, you can right away start preparing for RHCSA if you want. And it's not like necessity, like for sure you must complete it. But if you have this certificate and you are a fresher, it has its own credibility. And if you're a 2 years experience also, it is a good thing. So yeah, and right away you are eligible for a server admin role. Okay, so because we'll be discussing whatever I'm doing in day-to-day basis. So yeah, yeah, sir. So any other doubts related to the course? In the meantime, let me type the basic system requirement for VMware. At least 2 GB RAM, and your hard disk will be 20 gigs. Okay, so hard disk for SSD. Okay, so that's a good question, Mohammed. So by learning this course, how many years of experience you can give? So the experience is around 2 years of experience you can give. So those many contents we'll be covering. So yeah, if you are a fresher and if you start this course, many best practice in the industry will be discussing. Okay, so don't worry about it. But that's what, like, still 2 years of experience. And why not beyond that is because nowadays automation is important. And again, automation, if you discuss, the course will be prolonged, and it might not be, it will be a huge course. Okay, so that's the reason automation is not covered. But that's what, like, nowadays, if you are like 3 years or 5 years or even 10 years experience, you must know automation and those things, right? So our course is basically what is other than automation we will be discussing. Okay, like means the basics and intermediate level. So automation and all, actually you can do along with the basics, but still it's a huge. It will prolong the course, so which is not good for you, and because you will be practicing along with me. So yeah, and so let me discuss the system requirements. So if you planning for the VMware installation, just a sec. So if you're planning for VMware installation or your local machine installation, okay. So if you're, I hope if you're not using a enterprise laptop, like your company's laptop, then you can opt for installing your VMware and use it as your practice lab. Okay. So for that, the requirement is just go to your task manager and go to performance tab, and you see CPU and memory, right? So here you see the CPU core count will be there. So cores, you see 8. So in my case, I have 8 cores and 16 threads. So threads is not needed, just core count you just see. Only one core is enough actually. Obviously, every CPU will have 2 cores. So at least one core will be allocated for the virtualization. Okay. And memory nowadays, almost any system comes with 8 gigs of memory. So even I have only 8 gigs. Okay, so that is enough. So only 2 gigs, and even some cases only 1 gig is more than enough. Okay, so in memory, there won't be an issue with memory, but hard disk is what, like, you must allocate hard disk, at least 20 gigs should be there. Okay, so if you're having multiple disks like me, that's great. You can install other than C drive, because we might experiment till 20 to 50 gigs. I just given a 20 gigs, but sometimes while we do the disk management, we can use some empty disk actually. So until 50 disks we will be using. So that's what. So yeah, at least 20 gigs is enough for installing the operating system. And if you're not having this all, obviously it will be there. But if you can't install in your laptop, right? So if it is a company laptop, obviously you can't. You won't have the admin credentials, right? So in that case, we'll be installing in AWS or GCP. So I'll be showing you, and it is totally free. It's not like you need to pay for it. Obviously, you need to do the payment verification, but you won't need to pay. Okay, so both are free. So, and we will be discussing how to do that. And just before concluding the session, you just try to go to this link. Let me send that in the chat and bookmark this link, guys. So this is what, and even after the demo also, this will be accessible. Okay, so it's not only during demo it is accessible, but just bookmark it, because all the installation files or anything related to our course will be posted here. It's the resource of our sessions. So you just go here to the installation files and download this last ISO. Okay, let me show you the list view. Yeah, this one, ISO, which is around 9.43 gigs. Okay, so it's a huge one. So just download this by clicking this and download. And don't select multiple files and download, because it will do a zip, and that will take a lot of time. And yeah, so better download separately. So you should download RHEL 8.4. And if you're fine with installing in your machine, download this tool also, VMware Workstation Pro. That is around 600 MB. So these two are the one which is huge in size. So you must download it. Okay. So yeah, please try to download it, and like before tomorrow session, because we'll be doing the installation. And if you download it and try to install along with me, I can solve. If you are facing any issue, I can solve it right away. Okay. And we must have a working lab. So that's the important part. So yeah. And before we wind up the session, so let me show you the portal. Just a sec. But before that, is there any other? I'm having VMware Workstation Pro. Workstation Pro, which version you are using, Sai? Obviously, that is enough, Sai. And it's great that you are using VMware Workstation, because many people actually use Oracle VirtualBox. Okay, so that is also cool. But the issue with VirtualBox is there are few hardware issues will be there, like especially your networking. Sometimes it won't detect your Wi-Fi, rather than only Ethernet will be detected. So that's a bit annoying actually. So that's the reason I personally don't prefer that. And companies also prefer VMware only. So anyhow, if you already have that, that's great. So please do use that, and make sure you're using at least 15 plus version. So I included 16.2, but if you have 15 version itself, that is enough. Or if you have 17, which is the latest one, if you can use that also. Okay, and I included along with the key, so I will show you. Don't worry about it. But it is a lifetime key is there. Okay, so it is here. So you can use this key and activate it, and it will be forever. Okay. So yeah, so this is the link for joining the session. And today's recordings will be available in the YouTube channel, guys. Okay. So one second, let me share the YouTube channel link also. And you can even check my previous batch, like recordings. This is my 16th batch, I think. So it's been quite some time. So yeah, I've been training here. And yeah, already a weekend batch is going on. It's almost done. And you can check the recording here. And one sec, let me. Yeah, so this is the one. And I'm just looking for a huge one. So there will be 2 hours recording. Okay, so, awesome. Meanwhile, is there any doubts? Anyone, please do let me know. Yeah, day 2. And yeah, see day 3 also. So yeah, so you can check these all recordings and let me share. Yeah, so yeah, thanks for your time. It's already 9. So please do join tomorrow at the same time. Okay, so let me wind up today's session. And today's session again, it will be uploaded in this YouTube channel. So yeah, thanks for your time, guys. So let's catch up in tomorrow's session. Okay, thanks all. Bye bye.